And we're joined by Bruce Smith, a spokesman with the Regional District, and on behalf of the Emergency Operations Center. Bruce, one of the things I notice when I poke my head in the door is how many different government agencies are represented around that table.
Yeah, we have representatives from most of the local governments in the EOC at any one time. Today, there's probably 3-4 different local governments that are represented with staff within the EOC to try and deal with and support the first responders in the field as we prepare for potential flooding and try to prevent any flooding from happening.
And just across the street, we see sandbags being filled by, these are forestry people who are stepping up to the plate.
BC Wildfire Service is instrumental. We have about 80 different wildfire firefighters who would normally in the summertime be on the fire line. Now they're either filling sandbags or they're laying tiger dams, bladder dams, and stacking sandbags to try and prevent potential flooding that may happen as we see the creeks continue to rise.
And the key creek for the city of Kelowna right now is Mill Creek. I've seen some of the work going on along there. And a couple of things I think that bear mentioning here. There's a lot of work being done by the authorities, but people who do have flood-prone properties nearby shouldn't take that as a signal to do nothing. They should still work to protect their own properties?
Absolutely. Sand and sandbags are available at 15 different locations throughout the central Okanagan so that property owners will take responsibility for protecting their own properties, putting sandbags and structures in place around their buildings to protect their buildings. The flood mitigation works that are being done along Mill Creek are being done through a local state of emergency by the City of Kelowna with the City of Kelowna that allows these crews to go onto private property and put in sandbags and tiger dams and bladder dams in the event that there is any flooding or potential flooding from Mill Creek. It's there to try and stop that from happening.
So just to reiterate, this is last week, I guess, you put in this localized state of emergency that allows you to, if you need to, walk across somebody's lawn and get this important work done.
Yeah, and we would encourage people if they do see that these crews are working and they do build sandbag walls or put in bladder dams, please don't touch them, don't move them, leave them in place because it's there to try and prevent any potential flooding that might happen should the creek continue to rise.
And it's interesting how the floodwaters increase. In some of the sort of lower elevation sourced creeks and streams, we've already seen things cresting. But Mill Creek perhaps still increasing?
Yeah, there are a number of creeks and streams throughout the region that are fed by mid-elevation snowpack, and that's still in the melting stage. We're seeing daytime temperatures and overnight temperatures starting to rise, and that means that snow melt will continue in the overnight hours. So potentially we'll see creeks and streams continue to rise for another week or two, maybe even 3. Mission Creek, on the other hand, is the larger, higher elevation snow melt. What we're seeing in there is some of the mid-elevation snow melt now entering into Mission Creek, but we still have the high elevation snowpack, which everyone knows is well above average. That still has to come down. So the levels in Mission Creek will still be rising potentially after some of the other creeks start subsiding.
So it's like Mill Creek is the focus now, but looking forward, that focus will probably shift to Mission Creek later on.
It could, yeah, and we're also, that's why we're encouraging homeowners and property owners who've had flood issues in the past along creeks and streams to start making the preparations they need to protect their properties, getting the tools and equipment they need, and the sand and sandbag that are available, take advantage of them and utilize them to protect your properties.
So yeah, at this point, I guess rain can be a factor that can make matters worse, and warming temperatures. So a lot of it's up to Mother Nature.
It's absolutely up to Mother Nature. The latest forecast information we see for this week is that the temperatures will rise, but we won't likely see any significant rainfall until perhaps the weekend. That's the best the forecasts are looking right now. So we're optimistic that we can get some of that snow down from the higher elevations, and that'll assist should we get any of the typical rainfall we usually see later in the spring.
In the meantime, you just have to prepare for the worst.
Absolutely. When there is no emergency is the best time to prepare for an emergency, and that's why we've been encouraging property owners to take advantage of the sand and sandbag locations that we have throughout the central Okanagan and start to fill those bags and protect your buildings and structures from any potential flood damage if you've had flood problems in the past.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Bruce Smith from the Regional District and the Emergency Operations Center. And I'm Kent Mulgat with Kelowna Now.